Hello Millies, welcome back to Doll Meal. Do you guys remember way back when I shared on Instagram I bought a very special type of Monster High doll? Nope? Some of you might remember, but for those of you who don't, remember this big and tall beauty right here? I believe it's time for her to get her own costume. She is so much bigger than the traditional Monster High dolls. Looks like a kind and sweet giant standing next to them. Before we begin, we have to remove those clothes. Then we cut the hair as close to the scalp as possible. When that's done, we gotta submerge her head in hot water to soften the head enough to be able to remove it. She kept wanting to float, so I managed to contort her into this position and I left her for a good 20 minutes or so. Even though it did soften a bit, the plastic is way more firmer than the other dolls and I couldn't manage to separate her head from the body. There was a lot of struggling. Plan B it is. Gotta carefully cut a big enough hole on the back of her head with an X-Acto knife. Be careful when doing this as always, that blade is super sharp. Now I can try to remove as much hair as possible. There were some stubborn pieces that didn't want to be pulled out, but I did manage well enough. So now I can close up the bag by super gluing the piece we cut out before. Big mistake, Tanya. You'll see what I mean in a bit. Now to remove the face-up. The usual materials are pure acetone, cotton pads, and Q-tips. To prepare her for the sealing, I grab her up nicely with some plastic wrap and secure it with some elastic bands. Oh, but before we seal, I want to try something I've never tried before. Let's give her some inset eyes! First we draw where we're gonna be cutting. I think I will just go for the eye shape she already has. Then we gotta carefully carve the area marked until we can remove the piece. It's at this point when I realize my mistake. If I want to put the eyes in, I kinda needed to have access to the inside of the head. Seems like I glued the back piece too soon. Oh well, I will just have to cut it again. You want to keep slowly and carefully carving the edges so we can get a clean form. Nice! We can take her out and give her those 2 to 3 layers of Mr. Super Clear so we can begin the face-up. Let's bring out our ARTEZA watercolors. Oopsie! Sorry there, my colorful ones, not my intention. And also some acrylics I chose that I think would go well with her skin tone. Now we can begin the face-up. What to ramble about this time? I believe I'm short on topics. What to talk about? It seems like I'm early speeches this time. I'm so sorry, guys. I guess we can have this time to get a break from my constant talking and just, I don't know, enjoy and concentrate on the music. Sounds good? Okay, I'll be back in a sec. Ramble time finished! I mean, face-up finished. Who enjoyed those fine tunes as much as me? Time for the eyes. I bought this eye mold from an Etsy shop called Velvet Way, which I believe is not open anymore. It's finally time to try it out. I'm using my white polymer clay to make two 16-inch eyes. When I got the shapes ready, I baked them in the oven at 130 degrees Celsius for 25 to 30 minutes. When they are solid and have cooled down a bit, I grab the X-Acto knife and clean the little bits of dust that stuck to the surface. Then I sand them down, and finally I cut the excess around the edges. It's time to paint them. I'm gonna go with blue on the whole iris first. And to make it look a little bit more shiny, I will use my Pearl X blue glitter on top. I finally got my hands on some Pavelka Magic Gloss, and we can use it to make the domes. But first I set one drop at the bottom of each eye, and I decorate the inside with some cute pearls and shines. When they're all in position, I pour more magic gloss to create the domes. Using a lighter, I pop the visible bubbles, and using my brand new UV hand light, the process of solidification begins. They're finally dry now. Success! Yay! Now we gotta set them in place. For that, I gotta once again cut the top of her head to make enough room for me to put them through. I don't know what to call this putty, but it is the kind you use to set eyes on VJDs. I grab a small piece and surround each eye with it. Now to put them in place. Soon I realized three things. First, the hole I cut was way too small for me to maneuver. Second, the neck peg was totally in the way. And third, the putty was not working as I expected. Change of plans. I will glue them with some quick drying glue to set them in place. And afterwards, I will use my 2-part epoxy sculpt to make sure they stay in place. I got this little tip from my friend Moonlight Jewel. The epoxy is still a little visible on the corners, but it's okay, I will paint it later on. Hair time! We get a few rows of strands of yarn and tie them around a thing that you have around, something solid, metal, or whatever you've got that might work for you. Then we brush them to untangle them and make them all puffy-like. Afterwards, we just use a hair straightener on them before we cut them and glue the edges to a piece of plastic. I always use a zipper bag to do mine. When dry, we cut the excess glue and make the edges straight, so we can finally start gluing them all around the head. The clothes are next. Here are the selected pieces of fabric for the job. Using her old dress, I measured the length against the fabric to draw her top piece. Then I cut it. I did the same thing for the bottom part of her dress, just multiple times because it will have many layers. I'm putting an elastic band at the top edge because I want it to fit snugly against her. Then I pull it to create a crease effect. At this point, while putting it against her chest, I decided I didn't really want to use the elastic after all, so I discarded it, even though I don't show it here in the video. As for her sleeves, I glued one side of the edges, while I do use some of the elastic to hem the other side. Then I tighten that side against her arm, before I make a knot. Secure the edges with some pins, right sides touching, and with the help of my faithful Lola, I make quick work of hemming the sleeves closed. Now for the bottom part of the dress. I hem the edges with glue once again, but only on the white pieces of fabric. Then I use some decorative elastic pieces, to sew only on one side of the piece of fabric. Next I layer up all the parts nicely and evenly and sew them together in place. Using a regular needle, I do a running stitch and pull it tight to create the folds and fit the length of the shirt. Secure the top and the bottom, right sides touching, and finally run them through the sewing machine again to join them. There we go, looking good so far. We only need to close off part of the back with the sewing machine one last time, and then we can finally flip it inside out. It fits her like a glove. Well, actually, it was a little loose on the chest, so I actually ended up sewing a tiny hook on the inside, which will be used to hold the golden string I will tie around her neck. And to hide the tiny stitches at the front, I glue a tiny white rose. I also glue a white ribbon around the middle part to work as a belt piece. The dress is finished! Now we gotta work on those shoes. I can reuse the ones she came with, I only need to modify them a bit. To begin, I remove those horses at the back with my X-Acto knife. And you know what? The black skulls too. There, looking good. Now to change the color. I seal them with a bit of plastic primer before I bring out the acrylic colors I will be using. It will require a few layers of each color before it covers the red completely. After that, I seal them again to secure the color. Time to decorate them. I'm gonna use the same pearls I used on the eyes to cover the cut part where the horses were. Then I use the same white flowers I used on the dress to glue them at the front where the skulls used to be. It all comes down to small details now. I want to paint her nails with blue acrylic, sealing them with some varnish afterwards, and then decorate them with a tiny piece of glitter each. I also give the same treatment to her little tootsies. Oh, I almost forgot I got these eyelashes for her. I put some quick drying glue on one side and set them on place. I finished the hair by carefully cutting and styling using an eyebrow razor. And to finish everything, I used these two pink flowers to glue them directly on her hair. With that last detail done, she's all finished. So here she is, our very first tall Monster High custom, all finished. Also our first time making eyes. Very exciting episode. It definitely was a lot easier to work on this size than with the regular Monster High dolls. I mean, you do spend more materials on making everything, but the precision is more forgiving because you don't feel like you need to have your face almost 1 millimeter away from your hands to actually see what you're doing. I'm pretty happy with how the haircut turned out. Must be the bangs, I love bangs. And I'm actually not a dress person, I always wear jeans and pants. But I think I would definitely wear something like this if I could find it on my size. While I was deciding how to call her, this name just popped into my head out of nowhere. Sarah Lynn. Yeah, Sarah Lynn. I guess she chose it herself. What do you think? I think it fits. I want to thank all my amazing family of patrons for staying with me through all my ventures. Your support and kindness keeps me going strong. Many, many hugs to you, my friends. You guys are totally invited to come and join our Patreon family for regular behind the scenes and updates and also exclusive content. Wanna send a kiss to all our beautiful and wonderful Millies out there, Sarah Lynn? I hope you all enjoyed watching this transformation. Sarah Lynn is looking for a new home to go to. If you wish to adopt her, you can contact me through the usual channels, my Instagram or my email. Both links on the description below. Have a wonderful day, Millies! I will see you on the next video. Tschüss!